there's not one in the ocean. And it's not a good feeling. You know, you're thinking you come fish all day and you didn't even get a strike. And I can tell you, if you're going to learn to do a lot of kingfishing, that's going to happen. There's no way to avoid it. The skirted rig is basically what it means. This just happens to be this soft kind of skirt. I'm going to pass this one around. It has one of those Carolina keepers on it too. And this is this one with 2 treble hooks. The other type of rig is, I definitely suggest everyone that's trying to learn kingfishing, do not learn to tie this one without buying a rig. I find it much easier for these rigs to buy one. And if you look at the rig when you buy one, it shows you exactly how to hook it, even from the nose hook, how it's supposed to go through the lip. Now, granted, this one only has this one does have 5, and the ribbon fish that we were fishing with in Biloxi, they make rigs that are they make different sizes of these. I was fishing with eels that were 3 foot. They were twice as long as this. So we used a hook that was bigger, and of course these hooks were all bigger, and they sold rigs like this that were bigger. And just the stuff, just the bait, everything over there is a little bit bigger. Bait's bigger, the fish are bigger. I mean, it just seems like everything's bigger over there. But I recommend everyone, if anybody doesn't know what a ribbon fish is, they're a silver-looking eel, and they're mainly caught in Florida. Pretty much everyone you catch, I mean, everyone that you've ever bought in the store has been caught somewhere in Florida. They usually catch them at night. See one alive, if they're really freaky looking, they got real sharp teeth. They're anywhere from 12 inches to like 48 inches long. And their main food source, is, believe it or not, is menhaden. They eat menhaden. And they usually live in the ocean, but right on the beach. And they usually follow schools of menhaden. And if you've ever tried, people fish for these all the time. You can catch these at the jetties. The shrimpers catch these by the bucketfuls. You just never see them because they just pitch them over the side. And the ones the shrimpers get, usually they're a fish that's real easy. I could take a fish that looks brand new and I can rub my finger straight down the middle of it, and there'll be a line and a mark, and they get real scarred up real easy. Especially if you're looking to buy one and you say, hey, I need 6 ribbon fish. How many you got? And he'll say, oh, I got 15. I'd say, well, can I see all 15? And I'd pick the ones that are cleanest looking, clear as eyes, and the ones that just look fresher. But I highly recommend you try a couple of these ribbon fish out and hook them on there. And this thing, exactly how it says to hook them. And I only ever use these on the downrigger. They're a fish that's naturally near the bottom. So naturally I use them on the bottom. And sometimes I use them on the bottom, where the downrigger ball is on the bottom, hitting the bottom. Sometimes I use them up a little bit up in the water column. It all depends on the water depth and you know what may be happening that day. But normally in Biloxi, I went through 2 cases of those, and we went a case a day.
What do they cost?
They all range in what they look like. I bought a case of them, which is normally you don't buy a case. If you buy a case, and here in South Carolina, a case will last me probably 4 tournaments. Because normally they don't bite the ribbon fish as good as they do over there. But a case of 20 costs like $75. But you can buy them here. They cost anywhere from $2 to $3 for a pack of 2. It all depends. Sometimes you can get them. Tackle shop can order them, and you can get a little bit of deal if you know good friends with your tackle guy. It's just a matter of how many you buy is how much they cost. You can get them from the shrimpers, and the ones from the shrimpers work. And you go down, and if you know anybody that knows a shrimper, and say, hey, I'm going to bring a cooler with a bag of ice in it, and I'm going to put a 12-pack of beer in it, and you give it to any shrimper the day before he's going out, and I guarantee you that cooler will have 25 of them in it on that ice. Of course, the 12-pack will be gone. But that's what you get a whole cooler of them. And a lot of times, if you get someone that's on a shrimp boat that knows them when they first dump them, they can easily come get the ones that are less scarred up. And they're easy to come by, and they don't cost very much. It's just a matter of preference. Now, sometimes I don't even use them, but I usually never if I'm, especially in a fish tournament, I'm never going to leave the dock without a couple of them in the cooler. Because you never know, that day you might not be able to catch any bait or something. And that's something, if you don't have any bait, that's something you control. And they do work.
Got a question for you. You said earlier you wouldn't reuse one of these rigs here for fish hits it. Would you reuse those rigs?
Nope, I would not. Like I said, now I would recycle this rig though. I wouldn't throw away anything. I'd try to recycle it. Now, for instance, if I had a strike on this and maybe only the back two hooks were bad, and you could tell none of that else was sprayed or nothing with a real good eye, I would clip that off and maybe add a couple. These are real easy because these are, the treble hooks are exact same color. You got the silver wire. It just makes it a little bit better and easier to use. And you can not necessarily buy them with the nose hook. You can buy one of this right here. This costs like $2. And this one's just pretty much without the nose hook. And the nose hook with the weight, they make them in 3 or 4 different colors. And what these things do is they make that fish look a little bit more natural by bringing the head of it down. And when it's normally going down and your boat is moving just ever so slightly in the water, it'll make, when the boat moves, it'll come like that, and that fish will swim just like that, and it'll look like it's alive. And kingfish really like these things. They feed on these, believe it or not, inshore fish. They feed on them. The one other rig I'm going to talk about is a zombie rig. And basically what a zombie rig is, I don't know if anybody are familiar with it. All that is just a term used for a live bait placed in front of a dead bait. And a zombie rig would consist of this rig right here with a nose hook up about 12, 14, even 18, 20 inches in front of it with a live bait, a hardy bait pulled in front of this ribbon fish. And that sometimes is a technique that'll work with ribbon fish better than just the plain ribbon fish. It's just all a matter of what you want to try. That rig's really hard to fish. If you're not familiar with it, I don't recommend trying to make one right off the start and try to use one. A lot of times you can control a dead Spanish mackerel and put a couple of live menhaden in it. I've even used one with 2 and 3 baits in front of one of these. And when you fish in a tournament, they have a limit of how many hooks you can use. So you're kind of limited because when you fish in any kind of sanctioned tournament from an SKA or U.S. Angler, they have a maximum amount of hooks you're allowed to use per rig, and it's 5. Most of them are 5. Now, a lot of local tournaments and club tournaments that are IGFA certified, you're not allowed to use a hook rig like this and it be claimed as a world record. They're only allowed to use a 2-hook rig. That's the most you're allowed to use for any kind of world record if you ever caught one. If it had more than 2 hooks on the rig, it's not going to get IGFA certified at all. Yeah, I don't know if any of y'all knew that or not, but they're real strict about any kind of records breaking. And a lot of times, they won't allow 2 treble hooks either. It all depends on, they're real finicky when it comes to that stuff. If you're definitely trying, first coming out of kingfish, buy these factory-made rigs. Buy them as many as you can. A lot of times you can find these and all over. Certain times of year at Walmart, when they're discounting this, they'll have 50 of these for 50 cents each. And when I see them, I buy every one they got because I use them too. They work. And a lot of times I have these on my boat. If I run out of rigs or something and I need some rigs, I'll take these out right here and use them. And if you're dead, there's nothing. These rigs are, especially this type right here, this company, CNX Lure, they even make a video on how to make these rigs. And if any of you ever seen that video, it's a good video to buy. They sell it at Boaters World, just about all the tackle shops. I think it costs about 18, 20 bucks. And they actually show you exactly how to tie the rig. And like I said, these rigs are great. Like when I use them, I take the swivel off, use my own swivel. Sometimes I'll cut the leader length. But there's several different companies. This one here is that other type of wire someone asked me about earlier. That's more of a loop knot on it. And these work fine too. You can buy them with a weighted skirt. You can buy them with just about anything. You're really not going to be able to find any double rig, kingfish rigs or anything like that. That's pretty much kind of more personalized approach to the rigs. But I definitely recommend the factory rigs. Those things, they work just as good as any rig that I'm showing you, and I've had success with. Anybody got any questions about the rigs?
Ever fish with plugs or sweep?
I have fished with fly. On occasion, I've used giant fake minnows. I've caught them on a zero spook. I've caught them on, say, the Russell lure. You hear people catching the biggest king ever on a Russell lure. It's the ugliest lure you ever saw in your life. I don't know. No, they don't have one in here, but it's just a thing with, I don't know what it looks like. It's got two humongous treble hooks you can put on the back of it.
The king getter?
Huh?
King getter?
I'm not sure. It's called a Russell lure. They make it in about 3 different colors. It's like gold, red, and silver. Anybody got any questions about the rig? I'm going to talk about some bait now. You got stuff in your boat, you got your tackle, you got your rigs. Let's talk a little bit about the bait. I'm going to talk about types of bait. Oh, I'm sorry.
How do you store your rigs?
I store them about 3 or 4 different ways. Actually, I had them in some Ziploc bags. They make this thing, it's just like a rig bag. And it basically has a little thing of Velcro on the bottom. And each packet has 5 little Ziplocs in it. And you can put 1 in each one of these, and I think this thing will hold like 50 rigs here itself. You don't necessarily have to buy this. I also use something, just a plain little notebook. Get your Walmart sells 100 of those Ziploc bags for like $1.50. This whole setup here works just as good. And you can just go through your rigs and see which ones you want. This just happens to be all some of the ribbonfish rigs that I have. And this is just as easy as anything else. And this thing, I use this all the time. I got 2 or 4 of these. And it all depends. Like I said, when I'm fishing the fishing tournament, I might go fill this thing up. Actually, I got 2 of these. One of them just all with skirts and one of them all with not skirts. And pretty much go from there. But those are good. And like I said, Ziploc bag, put the rig in there. They work fine. I'm going to start talking about some bait. I can name about 10 different live baits, and I guarantee you there's probably 30 other live baits you could use to catch kingfish. As long as the bait is not bigger than the fish, a kingfish will hit it. I can tell you right now, I've caught kingfish on 8-pound bluefish, and I've had them hit it, and the kingfish was only 15 pounds. And they will hit anything. Anything. Menhaden, mullet, cigar minnows, blue runners, pinfish, bluefish, trout, redfish. I'm not going to say you use to make sure they're legal size. But I can tell you right now, anything that you can get behind your boat that'll swim, black sea bass, those awful looking lizard fish people catch a lot on the sabiki rigs, I can tell you right now, that you'd be surprised, that is one of the best baits beside a Spanish mackerel to use. The bigger, the better. For some reason, I think a kingfish sees that thing and they just hate it. I don't know if they're arch enemies in the water and they see it and have an opportunity just to punish one of those things. But I can tell you right now, for some reason, those lizard fish, and I have one of the friends of mine that can attest to it, he caught a 40-pounder on one. And I'm a true believer of it because I've had some fish on it. I've caught a couple fish, but I've had some strikes on them. Those things are so awful ugly. I mean, they look kind of like an eel, but you get them in your mouth, and they got a bunch of sharp teeth in their mouth, and they are just god-awful ugly. But, anything that'll swim, kingfish is going to hit. I mean anything. Here in Charleston, the best bait by far is menhaden. Menhaden are real plentiful. Starting in April, another couple weeks, they're gonna start showing up. Be surprised, even though the water's real cold, you can catch them in late March. And that's pretty much the ideal bait to use. My next preference would be a blue runner if you can catch them. They're not as frequent as they are here in Georgia and in Florida for some reason, in the Gulf of Mexico. But there are some here, and you can catch them. It's just a matter of finding the right place. And really on bait,